That was, of course, Christian Fitness with what was that? What was that song called, Josh?
The mood of the ships, mood as the ship started to sink was downright depressing.
And before that, we had Christian Fitness with Hamsterland. These are both songs off of Nuance, the musical, the latest record by Christian Fitness. And please,
order now.
Order today at your local band camps for great success.
For great success.
That should be the commercial for that, I think.
I was doing a Brian Butterfield for a second.
It's good. I appreciated that.
Call now.
Call now. It's cool. It's a different kind of Christian Fitness record.
Yeah, it's definitely widening the boundaries. You can tell there's a lot going on there.
There's some strings and stuff. There's some, like, it doesn't sound like a kind of like grindy, overprocessed Future to the Left kind of thing. Like, it's definitely like it's its own thing.
It is. And, it has blossomed.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yes, indeed.
Nuance. The musical.
Oh, see, man, I didn't even think about the title. The title, it tells you what's going on. Get ready.
It's like the kind of movies like Alien. Hey, there's an alien in this movie.
Oh.
The movie's called Alien.
Well, the one about the one that's called Aliens.
Yeah, that means there's multiple aliens in that movie, and that also tells you what's going on.
What about that?
They kind of stopped doing it after that.
Okay. Thanks for shutting that down. Before I got too far deep into it.
It's fine.
Okay.
I dig it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's funny because I feel that as the fourth Christian Fitness record, Christian Fitness record, I feel like it's interesting to like hear some different kinds of stuff being taken. It's sort of like I kind of feel like the first Christian Fitness record, especially, was sort of just like, oh no, these are like Future Left kind of songs, but like, a third of the arrangement,
right?
Just kind of like hyper speed, like quick ideas in and out, and like each one of them kind of have their own aspects to it. But this is definitely the one that like kind of varies from the formula most far. Most far from. If formula there be,
yes,
this is the one that wanders away from it, and it's interesting. I find it a compelling listen in a way that I'm not sure if I expected, but I'm always glad to have some new Christian Fitness.
Yeah.
Of course, devout listeners of Protonic Reversal will remember that the original plan name for the band was Tremendous Fence. Did not come to pass, and we actually this show. Tremendous Fence. This show actually did premiere their very first Christian Fitness song ever.
Oh, is that right?
That is a fact. Not even an internet fact. That is a actual fact.
A literal fact.
That's a literal fact.
Not a factoid. A fact.
Nope. An actual fact. Yes. So we'll be talking to Falco in a bit. Let's hear another one of the songs. Let's hear another one of these tunes from this year.
Let's crank up another one of those guys.
Crank.
Another track from Tremendous Fence.
Exactly. This is going to be Impressions of an Urn. Ladies
and gentlemen.
Actuality of Distance by Future to the Left, featuring our upcoming guest, Falco, Andrew Falkous. And that's off of the... which goddamn EP is that? I was literally just looking at it a second ago. Love songs for our husbands. Love songs for our husbands. Yes, that is I think we call that a rarity, right, Josh?
Oh, sure, yeah. A B-side.
A rarity and B-side, indeed.
Something of that ilk.
Of the delightful Andrew Falkous. Falco, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, how's it going?
I should ask, how's it going with you?
I'm a bit dazed because I just got in from a midnight run, so I'm not exactly prepared for you, but I'll do my best.
Few are, my friend. Few are.
Well, thank you, but confidence come before a fall and all that.
Indeed. We listened to 3 of the tunes off of the brand new record, Nuance the Musical, and which I gotta say, if it's not the album title of the year, it's goddamn close in my book. That's for sure.
Ultimately, that's all I have.
I want to say, though, on this show previously, you mentioned how the other Christian Fitness records have been sort of the lipsum lorem, kind of like placeholder text for the artwork that just have magically come together with this fantastic phrases that you decided, no, that's what the record is.
I had the temerity to come up with this title. Yeah, we thought we'd step out of the oft established box and actually have the person who wrote the bollocks on the record actually title it, because we weren't going to get away with that forever. Hey, just write some words underneath an image and that'll just work. You know, but I think in every band, in every creative process, there are people who they just know they either have a sense they're going to just work it out. I didn't have a title until two days before the album came out, and I just thought, it's just all of a sudden I'm going to have a title. It's one's going to come. You know, it's like you've ordered it. And you ordered it months ago from some, I don't know, like shitty mail order company, and it just arrives. It just arrives when it has to arrive. You know, that I realise how ridiculous that sounds. I haven't been doing bongs, I promise you.
He's doing the bongs again, son.
Boy.
Get out the prayer book.
On the bongs again, yeah.
There you go. I think you just named the next one, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big bong guy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for every random title that is generated, you know, they can't all be winners.
No, absolutely. You know, you're rather, you know, putting your fate in a god I have not yet met. So yeah, luck is cool. It's really good. I think just for anything you're doing, especially of a creative bent, if you give that thing a deadline, that's one of the best things you can do for yourself and it as well, because you just have to get it finished. So what I do is I think sometimes I'm going to need three months to finish this record, and so I then give myself 7 weeks, you know, because then it gets exciting, and they're the most exciting parts of making music, really, when the chips are down and all the other cliches have come to visit, you know.
Yeah, but it gives you that focus.
Absolutely, and you burn away all the unnecessary stuff, and it's like finish the record in that time, or it's probably going to be released, and you'll be embarrassed.
It might be a decent plan to finish this and send some.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, but yeah, I don't know how we got to there. You know me and digressions.
Well, and that's why we're a dangerous combination, my friend.
Not the best. It's all the bongs.
All the bongs, volume 2.
All the bongs.
Turns out volume 1 wasn't quite all the bongs. So.
All the bongs, volume 2. The rest of the bongs. Yeah.
Actually, if someone had a record called All the Bongs Volume 2, I might buy it. I would definitely listen to it. Yeah.
and never, of course, release Volume 1.
Right, no, that's the key part of this. That's the key part of this title. That's what makes it so good.
All the Bongs Volume 2. Yeah. You know what? There's something in that.
Yeah.
There's something in that. I think you've just peaked.
It's like clearly you didn't get all the bongs. There's a volume 2, right? I mean, that's a logical progression, though.
No, you see, it's something else. It's something else to me as well. It implies. I don't know. I was thinking about something else entirely, but again, that'll be the bongs.
Exactly, that's the bongs talking, my friend.
Getting dangerously close to shit catchphrase territory, so I'll move back.
Yeah, we're definitely.
So how's your new life then, living in wherever it is you live? Well, I know you moved from California to not California, so for a British person, it's like binary. That's what we work on.
As coming from the mouth of someone else, it could potentially be taken as insulting, but I assume it is nothing of the sort.
No. I've got too many thoughts I've got too much happening for details at the minute. Honestly, as somebody spending most of my time looking after a child, I'm literally at an infant's level at the minute, you know. So, and that's how my brain is functioning. So yeah, I do apologize.
It's fine. It's a lot colder. There's snow. There's a lot more space. It's much cheaper, so it's very easy. It's much easier to accomplish artistic goals, which is lovely. There's a lot of very wonderful people around here that are. It used to be people I would see every year, year and a half maybe, and now I get to see them all the time, and that's fantastic. And
that's cool. Well, yeah, great.
And it made for the the return to the West Coast on a tour to be wildly successful on the macrocosmic level that I deal with, certainly. And because apparently,
I just assumed. Sorry, I do apologize. I just assumed you were being sarcastic. Because,
no, I mean wildly successful in that it did not lose money. Minor amounts of money were made with great press.
That's anybody's idea of successful
these days, and apparently all you got to do is move away. Is the key? Is move away, and then everyone decides that they like you, and they will attend your shows, and they will write nice things about you. So,
did you become exotic like an Athenian general who left Athens after the Peloponnesian Wars and ended up going over to the side of the Persians? We like that.
I was going to make a Greek god of loquaciousness joke earlier from an earlier, I think, digression.
Is that a particular genre of joke? Is it?
It is now. It is now, sir.
That's fucking niche, my friend.
Well, have you listened to the show?
Yes, yeah. Well, we all at best are niche. That's all we can ever hope for, isn't it? To be particularly niche, to be noticeably niche.
I appreciate, speaking of niche, I appreciate the fact that Nuance the Musical, much like the movie Alien or Planet of the Apes, kind of lets you know what it's about with the title. It's in the title. And it's something where I was wondering, before I heard it, I'm like, I wonder if that's just this is funny phrase, Nuance the Musical, because of course, who looks for nuance in this day and age? Which is to say, almost nobody. People crave the familiar generally. But then when I actually started listening to it, there's strings all over the place. The arrangements are it sounds much like, well, it sounds like you, and it sounds like Christian Fitness, of course, because that is who performs it, if you're not aware. But it's definitely digs into some different territory. And it's real interesting here, and it is very nuanced. And that's something where, I think the On the Nose, I mean, it's no All the Bongs Volume 2, you understand, but I think the On the Nose definitely works.
What is, as we've already discussed.
So, I mean, was that like when you listened to the songs, I mean, did you have the idea first for like, hey, this is going to be a bit of a divergence? Is it just how that it shook out? Like, how did that come to pass? You
just write songs, piss around, and the sounds which come out. To me, you see, the songs, they all sound, they're the same kind of songs, they're just delivered in a different way, but yeah, you just muck on, and most of my songwriting is done late at night when everyone else has gone to bed, and the technical term for it is I just piss around for a few hours and see what happens. And sometimes it's very, very bad. Most of the time it's bad, but occasionally something which you like happens. And if it sounds like, you try different instruments occasionally, because in the same way with a different guitar, you just put your hands on the strings and something different happens, something magic, which you can't explain other than the virtue. It's just a new guitar, so the novelty is help you be creative. And sometimes, just playing around with different things can be fun, but ultimately it's just the songs you write, and then you end up with 10 or 15 of them, and you go, well, by default it's an album now, you're just going to have to fucking deal with it.
I find the best albums are usually declared by default.
Yeah, like anything. I mean, you don't want to go on about it too much, you just... That's the frustrating thing, that the persistent search for narrative or angle in order to sell music, or sell isn't the right word, just to get music to a new listener.
Yeah. To be heard. Yeah.
And I mean that stuff is just unreal. I mean, "'Twas always thus" as absolute pricks say. Anybody who says that is a prick. But it's always been the same, man. It's story, and you can't help it. The story works. Humans like stories, Even when it's a crappy band, once there's a story associated with it, even in the most discerning of minds, that band's now alive.
Oh man, I watched the Journey documentary. It was largely, in fact, I still don't care for Journey, but I enjoyed the documentary of seeing them take this fella was basically in a karaoke band singing these songs, and suddenly he's like, the Mark Wahlberg of the documentary Rockstar. In this situation.
Yeah, but some bands are so interesting, but because they're often because they're such a toxic combination of personalities, especially when those personalities end up with something approaching success. But the very interesting bands are usually pretty terrible, and that's all they have, because you have an image in your mind of the misbehavior of the whatever of the bad thing or whatever, and as a result it becomes, if you repeat a story 100 times, then it's out there, isn't it? And everybody's talking about it. But stories, obviously it's frustrating. The thing is, everybody has a story. It's just I don't know. I think some people are dignified enough not just to go around putting themselves on display all the time.
Yeah, and I think harkening back to what you just said, I really enjoy that Our Band Could Be Your Life book, but I feel like as much as I love the band Fugazi, the Fugazi chapter is objectively the most boring one in the entire book. It's like, they just are friends and they make good music and they run around and have a good time. Oh, okay, well.
Guys make music. Occasionally it's not as good as it is other times.
Yeah.
There was a thing once with a spider.
Right.
Just the stuff. And the thing is with us, obviously, there's, like with any people, there's a reason why you keep things which are private. We've had conflicts or whatever. We've had arguments. We've got people who are not in the band any longer. But in terms of, the kind of dramatic kind of arc, the canon of absolute horseshit, which say accompanies a band like The Clash, were they a band or were they a paramilitary group? Who can say? I mean, but I quite like some of The Clash's music, honestly. But they're far more interesting than good to me.
Yeah, and devoid of image, the music still holds up. And by the same token,
yes, I think so.
And you're also talking about a band that at its nascent end, sans Mick Jones, made a record called "Cut the Crap," which is the most deeply ironic statement ever made in an album title. Whereas Joe Strummer and the Sesh Bros. Additionally speaking, one of my favorite stories from that is there is a song on there called "We Are the Clash" that Sparks covered, which I in a deep.
I didn't know that. That's very good. You get a round of applause.
Yeah, in a deeply Sparks-esque move to cover not just the Clash song, but that specific Clash song was just cemented a certain.
That's amazing.
Respect in my mind that had already been cemented many times over.
Good luck to everybody involved in that story.
So, do you think that as far as the reductive power of storytelling, do you think that reduces the power of narrative and allegory? As far as it kind of seems like with authenticity, there seems to be this assumption that the person singing this song is literally having these feelings or has had these experiences all the time.
Well, yeah. So either on one side you've got people consuming things like cows, no offense to cows, or you have, a kind of self-identified discerning crowd, But I think sometimes, even as somebody who considers themselves to be, God, I wish I had a better label than discerning. I sound like I'm giving giving a lecture to an empty fucking hall, but that's no reflection on you. It's a reflection on the emptiness of my words, but it just, I don't know.
I thought you were going to say the Skype level acoustics, which do have a lecture hall-esque aspect to the ambiance.
There's room for everything in music. There's room for stupid, silly fun. There's room for pissing around. There's room for something with a bit more to it should you seek it out. And I just feel that increasingly we're just getting
yeah.
In terms of the stuff you actually get to hear, I mean, that's only my take. People will always say, well, if you know where to look, there's this and there's this and there's this, but it is hard to actively consume all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's the democratization of decent recording rigs and things like that just also increases the static level. So.
Well, yeah, it's a fire hose, and it's if you're, if you have certain filters or if there's an in already at a certain level, then that is a wonderful thing universally. But to get something new heard that maybe isn't coming from a familiar place, that can be a daunting aspect because there is just so much. Not even just with music, but you're competing with all music of all time, not just what came out that week.
Yeah.
It has no bearing on the quality. It's just
it's weird, isn't it? Because obviously the whole thing continues to work in some sense, so it continues. What it takes, like with anything, is for a complete breakdown, for things to change fundamentally. It's the same. It's the same everywhere. So I have no idea, but there are still people who value those magic moments, not those magic moments that arousal centers have been expertly prepared in order to appreciate, which is the way a lot of bands are sold, really, aren't they? They're a part of a, I don't know, the thing they've got to say is got to be more than music, doesn't it?
Well, and there's a close tie-in with identity with that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, saying something which is more than music is often a great thing, but it can't be the only thing, because then why bother with the fucking music?
Right. Right. Why not just be a reality star, right? Which apparently just stand on stage in your nice shoes, just talk about what the fuck happened,
Right. Yeah.
And occasionally, I don't know, totter into the crowd if that's, if you've had a few too many shandies, but I don't see why you've got to bore the rest of us with the music,
There's certainly some people that I wish would take up that circuit and quit with the music making, because it's enough. But
yeah, the thing is though, if they're, I think when you can see that these demented husks of humanity are having a good time, then at least they're having a good time.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Who's to say? But I think when you see one of those bands who are mining that, suspiciously teenage-aimed music and you can see the terror in their eyes at what's happening to them. They're the kind of people who want to meet and hang out with Fugazi. They don't want to be doing that kind of thing, really, right. Unless they've taken so much coke it's all broken,
which is entirely plausible.
which is likely, to be honest with you. So why am I saying all of this shit? But yeah, it's when you see those people, you're like, man, you got to stop. You're making the planet Earth demonstrably worse.
Yeah, which is exactly the opposite of what you ought to be doing. Coming from the world of, hey, when you're playing music, you're adding into something that's like there's a rich history for, and hopefully adding something to the conversation.
Yeah, just it as ridiculously hippie as it sounds, just whatever you're doing, great art project, love your film idea, all that, your kid's really good at football. Just try and leave the world a little bit better than you found it, and somebody in a band, I don't know, verb, noun, emotive, anecdote. That's probably what they're called, verb, noun, emotive, anecdote. Good name for it. I don't know, maybe there's a post-rock band called that already, I'm not entirely sure. But when you see those people, nothing good is happening there. It's an horrendous occurrence.
Well, that's a hole to dig out of, isn't it?
It's not a hole, my friend. It's an ant's hat.
No, but I think it touches on an important thing of this idea of authenticity too, and that how much, as someone who's a big fan of the allegorical tale, like do we literally think that everyone that sings murder ballads is murdering people? That's more than likely not the case. I have no proof one way or the other, but.
We'd put the work of Stephen King into a rather different context, wouldn't it?
Right. Yeah. Maine's a pretty jacked up place, as it turns out.
Yeah, this guy. Well, of course, some of it is true. We're pretty sure from his books that he knows a writer or two. one or two authors appearing as characters in his books.
Of course, yeah, and that's fine. But I feel like for me, and for my taste, I am someone that very much appreciates nuance. But let's go ahead and charitably say that I am not a large target market. I mean,
no. No.
Anything overtly dangerously precocious and smart, but with like a little bit of sass, danger, and or outright attitude is usually right up my alley. And I don't know. It seems like people want rebellion, but they want safe rebellion. They want like kind of a safe.
They want an already agreed upon rebellion.
Yeah.
Right, which is not rebellion. There's nothing rebellious about that.
I went to see the lady I love and still love play once at a show, and she was playing for somebody, I'm not going to say who, and it was at the end of the show, they got people up on stage like to dance while they played a song, which was a cover which they shouldn't have been playing anyway. It was horrible. It's very rare in my life where there's bad music and there's a bunch of twats, but occasionally you'll see a song played which is something happens which is so wrong on the stage you just stand up and go no.
Yeah.
Right.
I know exactly.
Just no, absolutely not. An adult needs to come and stop this. Basically the whole way I think the whole world has felt since Trump got elected. The whole when does an adult appear like Snagglepuss from the side of the screen and just go no, I'm very sorry guys, but this is an outrage. Just
cannot be allowed.
If we could just pack it up and get the fuck on, we got a world to be on.
Just wanting Graham Chapman to just come in and just put a stop to the whole thing. Just, nope.
Well, no, or maybe it's been like Bobby's dream in Dallas. Maybe that's it, and everyone will just wake up tomorrow and it'll be I don't know, whatever it is now. I don't think a word's been invented to sum it all up, has it?
Yeah, I was gonna say it wouldn't necessarily be all right, but it would be relieving, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah, it would be odd because it's been a very fucking detailed dream.
Yes.
Yeah.
Been a very, very detailed dream, and I can't say I like what it's done for my knees.
Exactly. So everyone lives in a constant state of anxiety, depression, and rage.
and that's
going on 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just gonna take a bite of a non-meat burger. 1 second.
Well, I do think it's interesting too that folks are like, oh, I'm just angry at things all the time. It's like I've been that way for the last 38 years. Like, welcome to the party. This is just a much more extreme version of that. Welcome to the club, I guess.
I like that charitable 38. Like the first 2 years.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say I was probably a very calm child. Was not quite. Wasn't reading the newspaper.
I don't think you've ever been described as calm, have you?
Yeah, more than likely not. No.
No, calm. No. Maybe if you'd in bullet time.
Yeah, maybe if it was opposite day, or if we were talking about some adjective that would nullify the actual word.
Relatively at rest.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a thing I'm known for.
No, calm. Let's not go with calm. Let's if anyone suggests that, maybe question why they're the person making out the list.
So with harkening back over to the album you just dropped, as we say in the biz.
We absolutely do not say that.
Yeah, nobody says that.
We don't say drop. No, it's I've very much enjoyed making it, and I was very excited by it, and for some reason I really thought there were 2 or 3 of the songs which would get played on the radio as well, but as in radio over here, radio 6 music and stuff like that, but it hasn't quite worked out the way I assumed. But the only thing in it, but it reteaches you, the only thing to actually get excited about is the song itself.
Doing the work.
We've talked about it loads of times though. Sometimes you get caught up, usually when you're younger in a band, and obviously you love music, but then you get caught up in things, and lots of people forget that the actual making of the music is the most fun part of the deal, and use it as something to get somewhere else. And so I was very lucky to be around people who were friends who got deals before me and to see kind of what happened to them.
Cautionary tales, yes.
Yeah, you know, and not even in an extreme way, but just to see the different stages that people went through with it, from that feeling of invulnerability, because there's that little moment where whenever you hear of a band getting signed, or especially back then, or having money put into them, there was suddenly an inevitability they were going to be big almost.
Yeah.
So when it didn't happen, there was that slight drop off, and then there was the part where they got dropped by their record label. And it's weird because even 10, 12 years ago, the whole, like, the terms of engagement were different. You talk about bands being dropped now and everything, whereas now, I mean, does that even mean anything anymore?
Right, exactly.
If your band's being dropped, it just means it just means their music's available from another source straight away.
Yeah.
They can print up as many copies as the pre-order indicates they should print up. So we live in a different world now in all kinds of ways. It's not all disaster capitalism, or maybe that is disaster capitalism.
It's not so bad then.
I definitely spend more time at the post office than I originally intended to when I picked up a guitar.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh mate. The stories I have. I mean, I basically post out all of our stuff, all the Future the Left and the Christian Fitness stuff, and the stories, the screaming arguments I had with people in our old post office in Cardiff. It's way beyond any kind of Larry David style misunderstanding, and all the way at do this or I will murder you. You know, like that kind of level of disagreement, and really, oh my word, as much of a bitch as I can be, it takes a lot to actually get a complaining email at me.
Right.
You know, dear sir, I'm afraid, you know, that kind of business.
Yeah.
But I've sent so many about the post office to the post office over here. My word.
It's a very adversarial relationship, it sounds like.
It became that way because they didn't think that they had a responsibility to send mail. And I was, you see, because over here, God, this is far too much detail for anybody. We have the post office, which is the location where you post the fucking mail, and Royal Mail, who deliver the mail. And they used to be part of the same company, but they're not anymore. And so it makes that, now that is disaster capitalism.
Yes.
And as a result, the post office itself, which provides other services like your fucking post office does, sometimes doesn't prioritize mail in the same way it should. You know?
I think that'd be on the priority list.
Oh boy.
But
honestly, the amount of times I've had to go in there and just basically use words in a particular order in order to fucking entirely convince somebody that they should do what is in essence why their job exists, because the post office isn't there because of the fucking candy it sells, is it?
Right.
It's there as a hub. It's there as a hub for mail. Anyway,
do the thing that no one.
As a special podcast bit, you probably can tell my fury.
yeah, I was gonna say, nobody's going to the post office for the atmosphere necessarily. I just like the ambiance.
No. I love the post office. Yeah, they got surround sound there.
I really just enjoy waiting in long lines with people with very hangdog looks on their face.
Well, for me, honestly, if there's ever a time in my life where I'm anti-immigration, it's when I'm stood in a post office queue and someone in front of me who's clearly just arrived in the country is trying to send 9 sweaters to Edinburgh or something, and it suddenly becomes a question of, you know, the whole transaction taking 35 minutes. So that is about the only time in my life that I'm not totally welcome of immigration in the British Isles. That's how bad the post office is. It turns me temporarily right wing. Maybe Morrissey lives in a post office.
I kid you not, sir. I was about to say, and you can blame your Postmaster General Morrissey is literally the thing I was about to say. Wow.
Yeah.
There's something to be said there.
It's, you know what, we should, I mean, like, it's even the issue. I was never a fan anyway. I mean, aesthetically, musically, it's just not for me, but I understand that people were thoroughly jazzed with it, which is great. But I think I know some nice people who really like Morrissey, and it feels bad to put the boot in anymore. You know, it's like if you've got a mate who's got a racist uncle who also does shit karaoke, you don't call him up every week and go, your mate is a racist and he does shit karaoke, mate. All right, and you know that would just be naughty. So and they know now. They know.
I certainly hope so.
Well, and I think that's one artist that definitely has not benefited from the melding of the art and artist that seems to be such a in this day and age.
No.
Maybe keep that air of mystery, Maz.
And no, yeah, air of oh my word, what a time to be alive. But isn't it weird? Like people would think it was any of his business. If you're going to speak with such authority on issues of immigration, particularly anti-immigration, maybe you shouldn't have been the son of immigrants who then moved to another fucking country, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not even hypocrisy, is it? It's a stage beyond that. It's hyperpocrisy. It's just, can you even hear those fucking words coming out of your mouth, you idiot? You know, what has become of you? Have a bath.
Well, and I feel like that's another person that would definitely benefit from having somebody close to him that just, you know, would gently put the hand on his hand and just no, wait, stop.
Yeah,
don't
mate.
Do that.
Yeah, mate. Don't say that. It's beyond ignorant, and frankly, you don't know. You don't live there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so maybe don't say that.
Yeah, maybe just on any. I mean, you know, I'm somebody who tries to reduce my environmental footprint. I try not to eat that much meat. And this is the thing with Morrissey. Sometimes you'll start a sentence, and the sentence will start absolutely fine. Yeah. And you're like, I like this sentence, and then he just throws in suddenly Hitler, you know, or AIDS or something, right. or some ridiculously misogynist, just right when you think the sentence is going to...
What happened?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, maybe he's another Andy Kaufman character, you know, you just... don't know. He just has that. It seems ridiculous. There must be a genuine problem there.
I mean, I was thinking of more of the the Burroughs cut-up method, where you just take it's like soliloquies from different plays and like the wildly disparate characters, but each sentence being some amalgamation of that.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. With Morris, I don't really see that, because with Morrissey, it's a very focused dickheadery. You know, it's not just random statements. He keeps coming back to the same things.
He's
stridently
consistent.
It's not a new thing for him. He wasn't for years and years all, hey man, and then all of a sudden went, I'm a Nazi. He's been whispering it. He whispered it for a while, then he went into a full-on bellow and nobody noticed, so now he's hired an aeroplane, he's had it written in the fucking sky.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's I mean, we live in a time also where, you know, Billy Corgan is going on Alex Jones's show and talking about social justice warriors.
We do. Come on. Though. Let's have more cheer in our life. Let's not go straight from Morrissey to Billy Corgan.
I agree.
Come on now. They're up there. You know, we have cells to positively charge. That's no. I can't do it to myself. I think if we did those two in a row, I think I'd be short of breath.
Yeah.
I think I'd be short of breath. You know, let's raise a glass to Billy. Have a good night, whatever weird cod vampiric dream it is you're living out this evening, and let's talk about something else.
Come on, he likes cats and tea. Just leave him alone.
Well, I mean, it's you know, it's notable. Like, it's notable. That's all I'm saying. And I think it's but for me, I don't get a charge out of being angry at people like that. I still enjoy kind of representing things that I love and things that inspire me, and that in some cases confound too. Some of the best art I've generally been like, this puzzles me and I'm going to unlock the mystery of it. And I mean, the nice thing about the aforementioned fire hose Not the band fire hose, which is perfectly adequate, but
Yeah.
but the actual fire hose of new music and new, we'll just say content, is that there is that ability that people mythologize of just finding the coolest, weirdest, most badass thing that you never would have been able to find back in the day because you have this immersive environment where somebody can just name 3 words and like that's the band name, and you look it up, and suddenly you're listening to their music 2 and 3 seconds later.
Yeah.
And that is a very wonderful thing.
Harp Revenge Yawn, or Tomorrow Legs Question. Yeah,
Exactly, and it's there's probably a band, and it more than likely is ska. But that said, you can find it immediately.
Just follow up bandcamp.com and see what pops up.
You'll nail it more often than not.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's fantastic that culture being what it is, and this wild, crazy train of absolute insolent, anti-intellectual BS that they were forced to ride upon.
This is the part of the problem for me. That was the fact that you've even got to say anti-intellectual, because that shouldn't be the point. But it ends up being that way because it
forces you to be radical.
Alluded to this, somebody said the other day, you've got pop music on one hand, and then you've got what you might call, certainly when I was at college, a lot of people were what we'd call proper music guys. It's not proper music because it didn't sound like Oasis or something.
Yeah.
But so it's got to be played on guitars to be proper music, and that is ultimately I would have considered myself a member of that gang until you meet other people in that gang and you go, I don't really want to be in that gang,
Yeah.
Oh God, that's what a fundamentalist is. But then, and so there was a really healthy shift, I think, in the way music was covered away from just whatever that was, just guys with guitars. But the pendulum has swung now, and the pendulum has swung in a really healthy way, I think, but not just with guys with guitars. You don't need, maybe that was a bad way of putting it, instead of it just being, now it seems that the people where it's all about pop and it's all about the pop is the wrong word again, just the fluffiness of it, the instant disposability of it is everything now. Like, I know people who only have guilty pleasures.
Right.
When it comes down to it, it's like, you've just kind of said that know everything you like is shit.
Yeah.
Like,
do you even know what you really like anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is everything just a pose of it? And don't get me wrong, it's not a cultural shift which is troubling the tectonic plates which underpin us, but it is definitely it's something which means that things just don't get time.
Yeah.
And don't get. In as much as I wish I could use a different word here, don't get consumed in the same way. Yeah. So that's something I find very frustrating as a musician. And I've done it myself, skipping people's tracks. Like, I said track. Sorry, I'm just gonna stab myself in the ball. Songs. After 40 seconds, because. I don't know, because you're in a position where you make a value judgment that you know enough about what's happened that you can anticipate what else is going to happen. But when somebody, say, sends us stuff, you always give it a listen. It's like unless it's a post-rock band, it's 14 minutes long.
Yeah, no, it is time.
In which case, skip to the different sections, see where they went loud or loud quiet,
right.
And see how well they pulled that.
Movement 7 and 8 really tie it together, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of post-rock bands don't even listen to their own records, so, they know how it goes. They're like, you can forward this bit 4 minutes. It's just Bob whispering, fish. It's great.
Uh-huh.
Well, and the idea of there being like this purposeful obsolescence with planned disposable aspects to music is something that I think is a very modern construct as well. But then to a certain degree, I guess you could say that some of these, some of the singles from the 50s were sort of planned obsolescence. It was never meant to be other than ephemeral kids music, and then some of it happened to be fantastic, and it's tried the test of time, right? Which
it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't just want to come across as, it's like one of those things. But people often say, I fundamentally believe the world is unfair in the following way: it is unfair to me. And because it's a natural human thing, I think, to think. But there's good stuff out there, but it's very, very difficult. I find it difficult to find it. I know the argument is you can click on it and it's there in a moment, but the other things it's implied that you should click on before you click on that thing. It's just, it's an epic verse, isn't it? It goes on and on and on. So yeah, not enough time. There could be some of the greatest bands out there, and you might have heard and hoped about them.
Right. Yeah, and there's a fear of that, but also kind of there's a weird sort of optimism in that for me, in a way, because
the misplaced optimism of the doomed, perhaps.
Yes, perhaps.
Yeah, but if I can just interrupt to say, that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The misplaced optimism of the doomed. It's glorious. You know what? Sometimes you go down with nothing, but my God, you go down with yourself, And sorry, I interrupted my friend.
No, that's fine. But yeah, just generally, like the that misplaced optimism of the doom is that band could be out there and I could find them.
Absolutely, yeah. But to me, there's nothing purer than when you see surveys. Maybe it's a British thing. There'll be awards given out every year, and I don't know, whatever magazine, eyeshadow and revenge porn, or whatever the magazine is called nowadays. Yeah, you see. Sorry, I completely forgot my point. That's because
different bands that are new, perhaps that.
Yeah, no, sorry. I've had. You know what? It's like 2:15 here, and I've had so many thoughts today. I'm not saying any of them have been good quality, but my day began at 8 a.m. with Ella. So I've gone through all the stages today. I did actually manage to go for a run in the sun though, because we had some glorious weather here today. So that made a nice change from the horrendous weather we've had recently, and the fact that our house is basically, I don't know, it certainly wasn't built with Britain in mind, put it that way.
I was literally shoveling snow this morning, so in April.
You see, we don't have anything like that. That's basically why.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically why a lot of people stay in Britain, because we don't have extreme weather events.
It never gets too much. It's a little bit like being inside somebody's armpit a good portion of the time, but it's never too extreme.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have maybe 2 or 3 really hot weeks in the summer. It's probably about 2 cold weeks in the winter, but it's only below freezing for a bit. It's not that kind of deal. It's not too fruity. But our house has just been horrendous. Some of the music I made over the last few months was deliberately frantic, just because I needed to keep warm. It's been so cold, in fact, that I've developed eczema and nosebleeds.
Oh wow.
So yeah. And that's in Britain, but the air's drier in London. Cardiff, it rains a lot in Cardiff,
right?
Because of where the whatever the hell, the Gulf Stream hits Britain.
Yeah.
So London's a much drier place. So you see, if I was somebody engaged in building a narrative around my record, I could maybe build my big move into London and having a child into the story, the story of the album.
Uh-huh.
I could imply marital problems as a result, and I could really fucking get some good traction behind it.
That sounds just salacious enough to maybe move the units.
But the thing is, we know, like, Conan, your music will be particularly paid attention to if you murder somebody with an axe, or if you're murdered with an axe.
Absolutely.
And the same goes for me, and the same goes for your mate Pete, and that's it. And
I mean, the
just
last
really-
film was called Art of Murder, so it's like every punchline
Oh, the line's
writer.
just
I mean,
drawn.
yeah, it's in the headline right there. So.
but it's true. But on another level, so what? As in the music's still there ultimately.
Of course.
And I know I go through phases. I go through like a week here or there where I feel very disillusioned. And then you realise you're being disillusioned about the wrong things. As long as the songs are coming out right. And standing on stage feels like the best thing in the world every time, then ultimately the other thing, it doesn't matter.
It's ephemeral and it's passing. And
it's ephemeral, and hey, we all want stuff, right? We all want to not feel like dicks out there, but but
some of us are, of course, so that's a problem. But that said,
well, hey, we've all got our shadow, but it just if it means the world to you, and especially when it's desperately unexciting thing for a younger person to hear, but especially when you've been doing it for years and you realise you love it more all of the time. It's an amazing. I feel very lucky. I know some incredibly talented musicians, and in a lot of senses of the word, who stopped playing relatively young because they thought maybe they got it out of their system or whatever, or maybe they just ran into too many dead ends. Yeah. But for me, I'll have those moments where I'm not enjoying it, and then all of a sudden it'll just start feeling like magic again, and it's like. Yeah. It's even better than a series of bongs, even better than that. But it's a lightheadedness it brings on. It's just and I'm so glad that now when I get that feeling of a new song, it's not like with other people I've known where you can tell it's the. It's what's that saying? The law of diminishing returns with them. It's the same, and it's more in some cases. I feel very, very lucky about that.
Well, and I think to a certain degree, like what you put out into the world too, it as if you're making the journey itself the destination, if the journey itself, like doing the work. Is what you're trying to accomplish, then any ancillary benefits or the fact that you're actually helping culture or like helping, even like a single listener like find something wonderful that makes life incrementally less shitty than it was the day before.
Absolutely.
Hey, right on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I haven't in the course of my career. I haven't had loads of comments or like emails like that, but I've had some of them, and. That kind of thing. And you don't necessarily need to enter into some kind of conversation with a person about that. You've just been told it. But it's an incredible feeling, that kind of thing. Yeah. Just to know that moment has happened. I think maybe some people, sorry, I'm getting some noise. I've got one cat trying to get in one door and another cat coming in through a cat flap. So just 1 second. Just going to negotiate. You want to come in, darling? No.
I think there's an allegory there.
No, there's just a cat.
I was gonna say, if we somehow tie it into the greater meaning of this conversation, we would be really impressive statesmen of words.
Anything which gets tied up is automatically lame. That's the first rule of conclusions.
But it could move some units, which also is nice. So.
Let's move some units. It's so weird, because I don't know if you have this is incredibly niche radio programming now. Turn away celebrity. If you have the Bandcamp app on your phone, it tells you exactly the links people clicked in order to where they came from in order to buy your stuff. That's just on the app on the phone.
Yep.
And you know what? I looked. Put it this way, I looked at that today and I thought, I know things now about, where I'm meant to put my attention now, because that is the most cost-effective way to spend the little bits of time I do on promotion, and I just felt so wrong. It just felt, and not good wrong, not another guilty pleasure kind of wrong, but Guess what? The cat wants to go back out through the door. Just came through. Hang on.
Shocker.
Come on, Genghis. Go on, sod you off. So yeah,
I believe
he's gone now.
I was gonna say, I believe not at the bonus round 100th episode, but the last time I had you on for full length, I believe a young Genghis was just a kitten. Now, so
right. I don't know. Well, Genghis is over 4 now, so Ella's like 1 in a month. So yeah,
one of them was. I don't remember. And also, you've been in the show a lot. Let's not gild the lily.
Yeah. You know, it's not a show. It's a support group, isn't it? So. No, I get it.
Not so good.
I need it as well. So no worries here.
That might end up in the intro, actually. That's pretty solid, I gotta say. After I got my review saying that the on iTunes, one of only 3 or 4 reviews, basically complaining about the length of the theme song, and that everything else was fine, but I was docked a full 2 stars for the length of the theme song. I was like, wow, that's someone that takes their theme song seriously.
Yeah, mate. Thing is, you work with Bob Rock, that wouldn't have happened. Verse, chorus. We're out.
Lay the law down.
You saying your stuff, you know. Yeah, just work with a top guy next time.
We were earlier on Radio Note. This is very niche radio, which is hilarious because it's not like it hasn't been before. But we were listening earlier to Radio Note, but we heard the Metallica song. What was the song,
Escape.
Josh? Escape. Which apparently Metallica, a rich source of amusement themselves, find to be particularly...
Trapped Under Ice, that one. Yeah. Is that Ride the Lightning?
It's on Ride the Lightning.
Ride the Lightning, yeah. And like just I mean, I guess Metallica in general, really. I mean, that's the beginning of the story and the punchline. But just to have to be
that's a mighty land you've covered there. It's vast.
But to be so blissfully self-aware in so very important ways, but then to have like the level of self-awareness to feel embarrassment about a specific tune, where it's like, really, you're embarrassed? Like that's the one, huh? You're like,
mate, of Wolfan Man. That song.
Oh yeah.
That song is it's Ice-T and Body Count funny. That song.
Yes, it is.
It's weird, isn't it? It's yeah.
Oh, dude.
It's like an Oompa Loompa band, and just like. I don't know. It has a lyrical conceit which would make a 6-year-old go, nah.
Yeah, that's enough. How many?
There's something so ham about it. I don't know. Wow.
How many times on tour I would turn to Michael and just, "Off the new day's mist, I run."
Yes. Well, of course you run. You know.
Yeah. Because we're wolf.
Yeah.
You run.
Well,
what's he gonna do? Helicopter in?
All that back to the meaning of life. You're like, yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
That's what the world needed right there.
To be in that room as they were like, "Yep, that's the mix. Do it."
That's it. Send the email. Attach the song to the email. Send it to the record label. Send it. Are you sure we should send this?
Nope. Yep. That's it.
Yeah. No. Send it. We are the biggest rock band in the world. Send the new song, which will be on the new album. Press send. Oh my God. We sent it. It's on the album now. It's going through the pressing plant. Will anybody step up? Will anybody say anything? No.
Nobody.
No. Once again, an adult will not step in.
That's one of the many reasons why I love Some Kind of Monster documentary, because of Lars's dad. Lars's dad.
You know, it's beyond comprehension, that documentary. I can't believe they let it be released.
it's
like that is easily the most incredible thing that any of us have ever seen it.
Yeah, on that level, it's amazing that they let that out. They let that be.
And what I love is that the audience was all Lars's dad at that point too. Oh, yeah. We were all like, no, don't stop that. Stop.
Yeah. I know. He says, I would say, delete that.
And everyone nods. Just,
yeah. And you're like, that is also what I would say. Yeah. It's incredible. are incredible, and it's like it was cast, wasn't
No,
it?
absolutely.
Yes.
Yes. It's a Spinal Tap moment.
It
for
is.
sure.
But also, I do think it's amazing when another audience surrogate in the movie, like you had Lars's dad or just Kirk.
Oh yeah,
Poor Kirk.
yeah. So as Lars and James are having their epic blowout of the for the thousandth time over, and what does he say to him? Oh, sometimes I feel like you're not listening to me, man. Kirk's like, oh yeah, well, welcome to the last 8 years of me being in this band, and like you're just like, what? What? Was that a major breakthrough that happened and he mumbled under his breath?
Uh-huh.
Incredible.
Just being the poor guy who wants to play guitar.
But by the end, you're rooting for the daft cunts, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You go on, make your silly little album. your wandery spider bassist to or whatever, crab or whatever it's called, flummox the crowd from left to right. But I used to work with a guy when he plays with his fingers, You're like, I'm like, you're kidding. With his fingers, just has he heard about plectrums? They're demonstrably better than most types of music. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse.
It's just
you play with your fingers. It's like when somebody's like, "Have you heard that band? Have you heard them? Can you believe it? They're only 18." You're like, "Is this golf? Do they get a handicap?" The fucking record, mate. All right, it might be imbued with a spirit of youth, but it's not like. Not bad. Oh, actually, 40. Oh, you're 47. Well, you're 7 years past the peak. It's very good considering your age.
Right. Oh God, maybe that explains the good press. Since they just turned 40.
Maybe it is. You've got a reverse handicap going on because you're past 40.
That's it.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'll take it. I've done my time.
Mate, at this stage, I'll take most things.
Yeah, whatever works, man.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever gets you through. We did a show once in Dublin, in Ireland, where, in case there was any confusion as to where Dublin was,
not Dublin, California. There is.
They'd sold, it turned out, the first 150 tickets for a band called the Future Kings of Spain, who are a very different kind of band to us. And those 150, I know that because 150 people left in the first 15 seconds that we started playing.
Wow.
In a room in which there were probably maybe 350 people that started. So the room, half of the people walked out. In a really weird way as well, like only there was a fire alarm that only they were aware of, which I guess was our band. So yeah, names matter. That's the point I came here to make.
That's an ignoble truth, but a truth nonetheless. Yes.
Yeah, that night we got banned from not banned, but we got told off because the show was sponsored by Budweiser, and we refused to drink Budweiser on stage as well.
Oh.
So that's the kind of hilarious Mystery Machine style scrape we used to get into as a band. And that's the reason why we make the big bucks, because we just go along with everything.
I was gonna say it was touch and go for a minute. There was one of those metal cans that were actually a bottle that wandered on stage, but nobody drank it. It's one for the ages.
Just let those principles.
No, yeah, I mean, you don't want to Budweiser. The thing is, I understand it when bands quote unquote sell out, but if you're going to sell out, you should do it for enough to buy a house or something.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
People who sell out who look like dicks just because Jägermeister want to do a thing, or do you know what I mean? Like, there are reasons. Frankly, nobody I know, if McDonald's offered them 300 grand for an advert or something, you'd go, well, if it's not you, they're just going to use somebody else.
Yeah.
So buy yourself a house. But when people have already got money and they give their shit up for something like that, it's horrendous. Al Pacino did an advert for Sky Television over here a few years ago, and it really was quite unpleasant.
That sounds appalling. Yeah, especially he can't need the money, right? I mean,
well, this is my point. I mean, you don't need dance around like a performing monkey, mate, you're a millionaire times over. But when it is some band you've never heard of, and you hear they've got 50 grand to do a theme song for Halliburton or something, then you can't feel it. Maybe not Halliburton. I don't know if they need a new wave soundtrack down the old Halliburton offices. Maybe they do. And I just want to say that I was not pitching for the contract.
Right, it's going to say, wink, wink.
Right? Wink, wink, yeah. I can only imagine that Radio Nope is well on Halliburton's fucking radar, mate. Yeah, it's there. It is there on the list. Yeah, it's there on the list, but
it's small print, but it's there. Yes.
I don't think it's near the top. I think they've got the temp looking at that through that information, combing through that for any.
They actually have a whole department just to comb over this show specifically.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
They're very miserable. You understand, but it's a living.
Yeah, it's part of their deal, isn't it? Though that's the thing with evil defense contractors. Not as chirpy as one would imagine.
Weirdly, they do have good potlucks, though, is my understanding. But.
Sure, yeah, probably a decent health plan for the employees.
Sure.
Right.
You would guess, but yeah, Halliburton. Fair. Here's my word for them. Halliburton, fair play to you, murdering cunts. There you are. There's your corporate slogan.
It's good. It really flows off the tongue. I like it.
It does.
Thank you. Well, I've never worked in advertising, but I think I've got a special talent for it.
Boy, that's quite the digression there of. Yeah, that's a lot even for me.
We went away.
I gotta say.
Do you need to fan yourself down?
I might need to. Yes, with my Halliburton fan I have over here. I'd like to welcome our new sponsors.
Sir, you are most forward. I need a moment. I need a moment or two to recover.
I believe I have a vapor, sir.
Haven't even been introduced by a relative. Absolutely.
So, I mean, how's making the last record as a father to a young human? Like, is it just more carving out the time than anything else? Like,
yeah, just that. Yeah, and obviously you hear a lot of stupid kid songs, so you've got to throw those out of your head all the time. But I can definitely see two occasions, kind of in the middle of songs where it was definitely the effect of that onslaught on my mind made me kind of pick up those kind of silly little basic melodies. But yeah, great. I can't really being a father, even though nobody really tells you the truth, you just end up doing a lot of washing up and you have a cold all the time. That's it. But that is the main part of it, because things like nappies and making sure they don't die, it's all very obvious, really, unless you're on crack, I suppose. And so it's just the other stuff, the endless sterilizing and washing of things. But you know what? There could be worse things than that. So yeah, it's that's good. It's living in London is just a little bit more problematic for me, because London is not the kind of city where you want to be trying to survive on not a lot of money. So
yeah.
That's the issue. That's the issue there. But I mean, it's also in many senses the center of the world. And I really like London. I just don't particularly want to spend every day of my life here.
Right.
It's that kind of place. There's something pretty awesome about it in the old sense of the word, but also a bit knackering and competitive as well. So it's but people have been to big cities before. They know how they fucking work.
Well, and it's almost like we alluded to something on this before. You moved from Cardiff over to London. At your age, is almost the reverse move, in the same way that me moving from like the burgeoning San Francisco Bay Area to Milwaukee is usually like the opposite move that people do. But there's rationale in all of it.
Yeah, well, it's just because of Julia's job. So this is where we are, and the thing is with London, it is a fantastic place, but it's a place where you can see everything happening. Cardiff is just very suited for me because I like to walk everywhere. So,
right.
Whereas in London, you can spend an hour and 40 minutes getting to the other side of London to see a friend.
Right.
I mean, you spend an hour and 40 minutes leaving Cardiff, then you've got 3 cities over, and it's made rehearsing for Future of the Left really difficult because we have to drive 4 hours to Cardiff, then rehearse, then stay in a hotel because we have to take our baby with us because we don't have our family around. Right. So just on a logistical level as well, it means every rehearsal costs us, close by $300.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that definitely you make it count, I would imagine.
Yeah, you got to. So, and the problem isn't when things go right, but our last rehearsal, in a writing sense, didn't go that well because it's pretty much all improvised and then recorded, and then we work from there. And the last one, the first one in a year or so, just nothing really worked, and just a feeling of deflation.
Yeah, it's a long way to go.
It's a long way, and it's like maybe 28 hours out of your life in order to rehearse for 3 hours, and we're it's still a fantastic thing, but it would be great if we did not live in London anymore.
Right.
Just to make the band hurry the fuck up and finish a record, because as much as I love doing the Christian fitness stuff, we don't really get to play that much. Even a year an album comes out, we'll only maybe do 25 shows or something, 25, 30 shows. Most of those shows now, though, with the exception of 1 or 2, are really good and pretty well attended shows, so that's really cool. But I want to get out there and do more shows. Basically, my self-respect is kind of predicated on it, so it would be nice you feel like a useful human being being stood on stage, as silly as that sounds.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
I do. The rest of the time I'm just, time, frankly, I'm just bumming around doing absolutely inconsequential shit. But when you're on stage, when I'm on stage, it feels like I'm certainly the only person who can be me. Put it that way.
Yeah. I once characterized it as someone that knew me from the day-to-day work life. Went and saw a show and said, "Wow, I was surprised. I loved it. It was great, but you transform into this completely different person." And I said, "No, you got it the other way around. I transform to a different person when you see me most of the time. This is, the resting state. The mania is the resting state." And,
oh, you.
Yeah. Well, what can I say?
Lots of things, mate.
It's the sickness and the cure both, right?
Whatever you do say.
I mean, it's interesting that you did that run down to Australia.
Yes, we're in January. It was very lovely, actually. It was very nice indeed. It was nice just to step out of the miserable British winter, but it was nice to, on that basic level that people understand if they've been in bands. You go away with your friends, you play some shows, and you have some fun in a very uncomplicated way. It was tough having Ella with us the whole time.
Right.
We didn't realise when we planned it, we thought we can just leave her with Julia's mother and sister for 4 days, but you can't leave her at the time 7-month-old baby with can't be away from the mother and father for like 5 days while we toured, so we had to take her everywhere, and it just logistically it did make it difficult, but the fact it was still a lot of fun and Ella got to experience that as well was it was pretty amazing, actually. And it's still amazing that people still turn out and come to those shows, because we get next to no press or anything.
Right.
And yeah, it's incredible. It was incredible. It's very, very lovely, but I mean, I think apart from that, I think I only did 6 shows last year or something. So, yeah, so I know precisely.
Just say some high-five numbers.
Precisely. Six or 7. We did a couple of French shows at the start of the year, and then we did one. We did one show supporting the fall, and then we did one festival about 10 weeks after Ella was born, which was interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
There was, I don't know if I told you the French anecdote, or maybe didn't. I mean, I don't know if you fully understand how attached the French are to smoking.
We've heard a thing or two.
Yeah, good. I'm glad this is a cultural cliche which has crossed the Atlantic. But where we were in, God, where was it? Nancy, I think. I might not be correct about that. Or Orléans. No, it was Nancy. The day after Paris, and when we were in Paris, we played at this terrible venue called the Batafar, which was a boat, and just it wasn't level, and it was a shit show generally. Lots of complaints, and I was talking to the promoter the next night in Orléans, not in Orléans, in Nancy, and I was telling him how these Rasta guys were smoking tobacco and weed right in front of Julia, who was pregnant, and I was telling him how disgusted I was with this, and how I said like stuff to them, basically told them to go and fuck themselves. And as I was telling him this story, and he was nodding in sympathy, he rolled a cigarette and started smoking.
Of course.
In front of Julia, who was obviously still pregnant because it was the next fucking night.
Terrible.
That to me, this is terrible. How can they? One second, my friend. I just roll this.
Need to light it up.
And you're like, well, and there we are, in a nutshell, France.
That may not explain freedom.
It's an amazing country. I want to make it clear, I'm not one of those British people who has a problem with the French. I think the French are amazing, but the smoking. I mean, it's our joke when we get to a venue and they're like, you are not smoking. They're like, yeah, we try not to smoke all the time, if at all, in my case, But yeah, they like a smoke. The techs always come on the stages in Europe and they're always smoking. And sometimes at big festivals, some of those huge joints in their mouth. You're like, maybe you could put that down just while we set the stage up.
No. Don't want to lose track of it.
Not going to be.
Don't want to get in the way of don't want to get in the way of your recreational fucking drug habit. So please continue while the rest of us try to fucking work.
Heaven forfend.
I'm just imagining someone like coming on stage and like moving a monitor around with one hand where they got a fucking bottle of Jack Daniels in the other.
Yeah,
you wouldn't see that.
It was.
But it's exactly that kind of thing. Apart from the bottle of Jack Daniels is this huge fucking doobie or whatever. You know, that's the mad thing about it. But you see it happening, and it happens without a second thought. But yeah, the continent. Yeah, France, Italy. Put it this way: you might be sad that you've never played a rock show in Italy. If you've never played a rock show in Italy, but the upside of that is you've never played a rock show in Italy.
we actually have some friends and former guests of the show that are playing Italy right now.
Yeah.
Maybe not right.
Don't get me wrong. I guess there might be certain scenes or whatever, or where they can have some good shows. But I mean, with the noise restrictions and everything about it, and the natural reticence of the kind of character as well. I've done maybe 15 shows in Italy, and there was one where I came off stage going, I don't want to kill myself. Like literally, the noise restriction's so quiet that you can hear people ordering drinks at the bar whilst you're playing, and
that really sets the mood, doesn't it?
Yeah, we had a heckle once. It's the best heckle I've ever had at a show, actually. It was in Italy. I can't remember where. Somebody just shouted, "Why?"
Wow, that's a solid heckle.
Yeah, but I think what happened is they started shouting it. They got cut off, but I decided to interpret it as why. So I just talked to the crowd for 10 minutes about why. And
that's good.
It was one of those. It was one of those moments where we knew we'd lost. We were supporting someone. So you may as well really lose. you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's linguistic jujitsu, really. So
why don't you guys kind of fuck off kind of moment, you know? Like that kind of thing, you know, when a gig's not going well and people go, hey, you got this space at the front, why don't you guys come forward a bit?
why don't you come forward and dance?
Exactly the opposite of that.
Yeah.
For me, you go, hey, this is my stage. Get the fuck away from it. You come anywhere near this stage, you know, basically take that attitude with the crowd.
Yeah.
And you know what? When a show already isn't going well, that kind of thing can be very entertaining. Carlson, who was in Future the Left originally, he really, when things weren't going well, he used to really get off on that. I think it was almost sexual for him.
It presented a weird but awesome energy. Like you could tell, like something clicked in his head where it's like, aha, at last, like, you know.
Yes, a chance just to, in that same way that, I mean, if you're trying to be a polite person in your life and you try to be polite with somebody and they say stuff to you, and then there's that moment where it clicks, where you get to have carte blanche with them, you know, where you get to tell them exactly what you fucking think. And but for Kelson, that moment came a lot earlier than for the rest of us. Well, you know, like it would get to the stage where, and I can do it as well, but you could see he would sometimes, if somebody was being particularly bored down the front when we were doing this particular support tour, he would focus on that person and he would get them to leave, you know, by all means. He wouldn't touch him, don't get me wrong, or nothing like that. He probably wouldn't move from his spot usually, but he could make people move away by just the glowers and the moves and the, you know, whereas I really just have my eyes, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas that guy had an actual. It's weird. You would see it like sometimes. I remember a couple of shows in Holland supporting against me where the crowd were fucking hating us, and it was we just have bets on, you know, I'll get her, the bored girl with the arms up on the barrier, I'll get her to move.
Yeah.
You know, you get him to move first. You know, because that was all that was left for us in the show.
Well, and actually, having seen you guys on that tour, it was myself and
you saw
the U.S. version,
the U.S. tour, where the crowds were far better for us, with the exception of a couple of shows, because I think partly because the crowds are a little bit more open-minded, a bit less tribal in the States, right, but also because Ted Leo was on the bill as well, and I think that helped to act as something of like a bridge between those two things. So, but yeah, you saw us in San Francisco. I remember
it was a great show, but there was definitely one young lady that was just from the outset having none of it, of any of any kind, in a very determined way, a very single-minded and determined way.
Because having none of it is fine. That's most people, you know.
Right.
You come to terms with that. But if you're visibly making a point of having none of it, then this is where you will engage with the rock band in a different kind of way.
And that's where I kind of elbowed Chris and Allie, and I was like, gosh, you know, check this out. This is an interesting dynamic here. Like watch it. And then both of you focused on this young lady on one song that I can't remember what song it was. It had a very repetitive part, and it was almost like, you know, when you see the cartoon characters blasting the, like the energy beams at each other, and they meet in the middle, and it goes back one way, and it goes, you know, forward another, and there's like psychic fighting.
I believe. Oh, I thought the franchise you were referring to was Power Rangers.
And then it was absolutely compelling for me to watch on multiple levels, and then you got her, and she just started nodding her head along, and I was like, that's amazing, because it went on for, to me, what seemed like hours, to the point that I was like, this is a power struggle that, like, it's, you know, there's worlds that will be defined by this battle of this one young lady that just has making a special show of having none of it. And it was a very wonderful moment for me in a crowd that I felt, you know, generally kind of. It was clear to me who.
I remember that show. I remember that show actually, and it was that tour was very well attended, but that show wasn't particularly. It was in quite a big room,
Yeah,
and it wasn't that well attended. And one of my main memories of the night is arguing with the venue because they wanted to take a percentage of our merch. And so I stood next. I was very drunk that night, and I stood next to the guy whose job it was to count out, saying numbers at him, just until he just gave up and went away. Because I mean, it was ridiculous. We'd make like, you know, $200 a night in merch.
Yeah.
And basically that was, you know, that would help us scrape by. They wanted to take $30 from us or whatever. I just wasn't having it. So I said I used to know pi to 27 places or something. So I just said that until eventually he looked at me. He's like, you know, he was just a guy doing his job. He's been told to do it by his manager. I get that. I think I apologized to him. I think I said, listen, I know you're just doing the job, but I've got to fuck with you here. This is just wrong. This is just wrong. You can't take money from us. We are genuinely poverty stricken. Like,
yeah. This isn't an affectation.
No, this isn't an affectation. We need this money, man. If you take this money from us, we are not eating tomorrow.
Yeah.
That kind of deal. And yeah. I think after a while, and saying pi to 27 places, that got him to move on. I will say though, I mean, against me, the tour with, you wouldn't necessarily put us on a bill with that band, but they were very, very lovely people, you know.
And that goes a long way.
Yeah, no, it goes the whole way, my friend. You know, they were. You know, they were very, very lovely people. And generally speaking, the crowds in the States liked us. When we did the European tour with them, it was, wow, that was an experience to do 24 shows and probably have 2 of them where the crowd just didn't visibly hate you the whole time.
Right.
You know, but it ended up being great. I don't know how to describe it. You just ended up treating it as we did one show in Prague where the crowd were appreciative. There wasn't even very many of them. And we came off the stage and we were like, we hadn't enjoyed ourselves because we hadn't spent the whole night insulting the crowd. No, it was great. I remember we did some shows supporting Against Me in Britain, and there was one show in Birmingham. We spent the whole fucking night just having a go at the crowd because they were so fucking shit right from the start. They're looking at us like we getting people to move, you know. Yeah, get the fuck off the barrier. Give someone else a turn, you fucking wing. You know, it was great. You know, it was amazing. It wasn't how you build a career, sadly, but it was. But in its own way, it was absolutely amazing.
It made for great entertainment. I almost felt like, you know, I'm watching a floor show or something. I'm sure, because even, you know, getting the lighter aspect of that in the Bay Area, like I said, just seeing, like, making a convert of, and I put it this way, and I've said this before, which shows that I played. Sometimes people are just there to see their favorite band, and it doesn't matter who you are. They're not interested in that. And
yeah, which on one level is cool, but don't stand near the front and make a point of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So if they're viewing, you know, your band as being the impediment of seeing the band that they're there to see, their favorite band, then I feel like the rules of engagement have been set.
Yeah.
To a certain
as if you're making them go on later.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's your fault. It's your fault that this is happening.
Oh, they would have been on at 9 if we weren't here, you twat. You know?
So the fact that you put the energy is focused on this girl and managed to convert her to a point that, if nothing else, there was a moment of self-awareness, like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, was an incredible moment for me. Like in like a history of, I've seen a lot of great shows, and I do feel that especially that era of Future of the Left, you guys could have doubled as a stand-up act and literally doubled your money.
We could have more than doubled our money because the money wasn't very much in the first place. But
I know what I said.
Yeah, but I got punched on that tour in Seattle when I was walking through the crowd after the set by some dick, and for all to say, that kind of thing hasn't really happened to me since the start of being in a band, when there was quite a lot of that kind of thing around. But it was one of the problems came though. Kelson, when he started being in the band, he was he's a funny guy, but he didn't talk a lot, and his accent, his Welsh accent, was a lot broader then. He was the singer of the band Jar Crew, who were incredible, that mclusky played with all the time. And when he used to talk in between songs, he just sounded like a fucking goblin. He'd be like, and you couldn't really make it out. But I think after a while of being in a band with me, and the fact that he's a funny guy, he started talking more, and he learned that a lot of it is, especially live, is about taking your time. But towards the end of him being in the band, it got a bit too much. And the reason it got a bit too much is because there were other things, like affectations. Like, for me, if I'm talking, I'm tuning my guitar and having a drink at the same time, because the breaks in the song between the songs shouldn't be that loud. But he would take a drink, dry his bass off, and then talk to the crowd, and you go, mate, it's already been 50 seconds. Like, play a song, and
Right.
In terms of our show, even though there's a lot of talking to the crowd, there are opportunities to talk to the crowd, which happen when somebody needs to take a break to get their breath back or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there are intros in the set where there'll be a little gap because I need to get, say, my breath back after a particular part, or there's a bit where Jack likes to get a drink or whatever. It doesn't mean that the chat is scripted. It just means that the place where it can happen is scripted, unless everything breaks.
Yeah.
In which case you have to talk all the time.
And speaking of talking all the time, it's our time with you has ended, my friend. But it's always
Yeah, Jesus, that's far too long. There are going to be people actually, you're threatening suicide if they listen to the entire hour and a half. I think that's appalling. Nobody needs to hear us bang on for that long.
Luckily,
That's a shock. That's a shocker. But I very much enjoyed it.
it's always a pleasure, sir. Nuance and Musicals is the record. Thank you so much for
Buy
sharing.
it with Bitcoin, and so at the very least somebody will have to explain to me what Bitcoin is, because I really try hard with Bitcoin. There's a couple of really good friends who've been talking about it to me, but I cannot struggle to give a fuck.
It's a mystery not only for the ages but for next time.
The next time, forever. You take care. Namaste. Go well into whichever void it is you choose.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Take care, both. Bye bye.
There he goes. There's Falco. And here we are.
Man, of all the things I thought would happen today, discussing of Wolf and Man with Andrew Falkous was not high on the list.
Yeah, and yet here we are. It's a rarefied air. It's a rarefied place. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Get that record. Nuance the Musical.